what you can do, you know, with going to YouTube, you can, hopefully you can just pause it and look at these, where this distant mountain is bluer than this one. This one's a little closer, and you might see a little more ridges indicating trees. And then there was fog down here, so I left that white. And then I came back with the trees. The trees are a lot of just suggestion, different directions. Look at the direction that the branches grow. Do they grow up and out? Do they grow down and away? Are they rounded clumps or not? Just look for stuff like that. And there's usually a darker edge at the base of the trees just because of the shadows. So look for things like that that just makes it very simple to lay in. And then when you're doing meadows, the distance you want horizontal to indicate flat. And here's another example of the distance hills in the back in bluer, because yellow is the first color that disappears in distance. So yellow and
nature too.
yeah, it is. So that's why the green in this back mountain doesn't show. If you were closer to that mountain, there would be green, but you don't see it in distance. So you want to make sure that you create, that's why the warm colors advance and cooler colors recede. And you want softer edges in the distance and sharper edges up front. And see how this one, I just had brighter colors for the tree, threw in just some random strokes, kind of just indicate an outline and maybe a trunk or two. And I didn't even worry about trying to figure out what kind of tree that was. You don't have to tell all the information. So, so much of watercolor is that. Now, Debbie's working on a marsh scene. So here's a watercolor marsh scene. She's doing one in oil. But the far grasses, the edge of the grass next to the water is going to be darker because you see the front side of that clump of grass. Here, you only see the tops of the grass, which is lighter. You don't see it where it meets the water. So looking for things like that is going to help you translate your paintings. Okay, the next thing I want to do is ocean and a different kind of cloud. Now this is one we did do together with the other class. So this is more of a defined cumulus cloud. So if you will just watch me first, and then it'll be your turn. This is another one where I turn the paper sideways because I want to control where the water, remember that first day, okay, the first day where we did this kind of thing. We did line of color and then we drug it out. Remember that, the first day when we're controlling the paint? We're doing that same thing, but because I can control the tip of this brush this direction better than I can this direction. Oh, there's not enough paint on it. If I was going to try to create clouds here, my hard edge is down here, my soft edge is here, and that's opposite of what I want to do here. I know that probably didn't make a bit of a sense, but it'll make sense now. I want the soft edge to be away from the top of the cloud. The hard edge is the edge of the cloud. So my hubby's home, yay. So I'm gonna, hey sweetheart.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm gonna water it down. I'm looking at the cloud. I don't want each of the shapes the same size. And I'm laying it down, coming up, then down, filling in. Oh, this is really watery. I'm gonna have to come back and add some more paint. Now this will be a more dramatic sky because I just added way too much. Whoa, way too much. Okay, we're just gonna change this. We're gonna change the sky altogether. Okay, we're gonna have we're gonna have that kind of, it could be, that'd probably be better to do. I'll just see what happens here. So I have some clouds building up in the distance. It's darker at the top. Find an area where it indents and come in and make another row of clouds. Make one here. Come over here. I'm just trying to connect. Oh, see, look what I just did. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all the same size. I don't like that. Paper towel. But I don't mind. Now I'm going to come back and deal with that. But I don't mind what that did. So now I just want to make sure that I change some of the shapes. Cat fur helps a lot. See, Riley was over here a minute ago, and
It's dog fur.
it's just
So
what I'm going to do is where I lifted, I'm putting more paint behind it. Y'all see that?
Where you lift.
Where I lifted the paint here,
Oh, yeah.
I'm putting another ridge of cloud behind it
Yeah.
to try to make sense of that and to kind of get rid of this sameness in shape. So as I get closer to the horizon line, now if this was water down here, your clouds are not going to be as poofy. When they're closer to the surface, they get more level. So you want just to indicate some of that. I might just have to totally start over. I don't really like this one. See, not everything works out, even for me. Okay. That's not horrible. Don't like that cat fur there. So if I want to soften these, I can now come back and just barely touch that edge if I don't want it quite that hard. And I can also come back and add layers of color once this dries. But now I'm going to go ahead and flip it and do the water. This is just going to be the upper portion of the you're not going to see the shore. And I just drag my brush along the edge. I want it a little bluer. Other blue. I'll probably pick up, ooh, yeah, whoa. I pick up more of that because it's wet. And when it's wet, it doesn't take much to lift it up. And I'm going to leave a little space as I paint to, I thought Kelsey was home, to create just the illusion of kind of waves coming in. Okay?
Actually, it looks good.
Doesn't look bad, considering how it started out. Okay, so what I want you to try, and I'll put both of these up and down, is trying to create, this is actually the one that I had to hold their hand and paint along, just to get a different feel and a different shape, and then break up those shapes, try to find where it caves in, and then go a different direction with it. You're going, I'm lost, I don't know what
And
she
you didn't clean your
said.
palette at all, you just...
I just used what was already in my palette.
Okay.
This is a way of saving the whites and painting toward the edge that you want to save.
We were supposed to wet the paper first.
I did not.
No?
No, this one you did not. Now make sure your paint's really loaded. So
So is that watery enough? Or?
it might be. You might want a test sheet. Where's your test it here to see how dark it is? No, I did it wet, more wet. So maybe make a pile, maybe next to it. Yeah. Just squeeze some water. Yeah, squeeze some water in there. There you go. Now see what color it is. You might want to dab that. Yeah, but if you smear it out, see when you smear it out, it's thinner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would use that. That's better.
Okay.
Give it a try. And just try to vary the shape, make one go higher than the other. And we'll do another one. Nice. How's your day? Okay. Not too bad. 6 months. Yeah, that blue's fine. Either any of the blues, it can be fine. Whatever one you want your sky to be, just make sure there's enough water in it.
Okay.
Go ahead and blend. Go ahead and blend out this sky part.
Before it dries.
Right.
It's not wet on the edge.
Now this is where once you put your line, you need to blend out though. So, because if you don't blend out, you're going to have you're going to have an outline. Remember how we taught, if you do this, if you go, okay, here's a line, and here's a line, and here's a line for my clouds. If you leave that very long, you're going to have an outline that you can't get rid of. So as you create your edge, you need to go ahead and blur it out as you create it. So even now going back, I'm having a hard time obliterating that edge just because it was pre-drawn and dry. Now I can soften it some, but it's going to be harder because I let it dry. And this is really too purple, but yeah, it's what I just grabbed just to show you. Yeah. My suggestion is look at clouds. Look at a real picture of a cloud, because your brain wants to create patterns, and it's really hard to make that pattern change when you're not looking at something. But you see how that first line that I drew, how heavy that is? Mm-hmm. And I can't get rid of it. So the whole thing isn't bad, but that draws my eye away from it. So try to avoid that. So by wetting the back as you work. All right, Debbie, you're getting.
I'm getting
hoops.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all, you're treating everything the same.
Okay.
Now you got some variation though. That's good.
I don't know if they look like clouds. They're kind of weird looking.
They're close enough. I mean, it can be abstract too. And again, we're not looking at anything particular. But I want you to leave some of the white on the cloud, just so that you have a little bit of sunshine coming in.
So where am I going from here then? Another loopy?
Well, I think your loopy's backwards, because you're going in. Is this what you're using?
Yeah.
Okay, so the cloud, this would be the cloud top right here. So it would be coming out this way. This direction is what you need to shift. It needs to be more
Pointy.
come in. Well, we don't. I did a curve right above a curve. Damn it. I'm gonna just change that one. And just ignore this part.
Okay.
This is the whiter part of the cloud. Then you come in, leave some of the white, create another little bend, leave some white. Yeah, just have to. And you can just obliterate. Yeah, let's just obliterate it, because it was going. Some of it was going backwards, and when it was going backwards, it was hard to change direction. So if we make it wet enough,
fix it with plots.
A lot of times you can, and then you can come back and create a little bit of variation in it if you want, and it'll just be a different time of day where they're not so clear and sunny.
Mhm. Okay.
And just play with it. Yeah, you're okay. What you're doing, and that's kind of what you were doing, is you're making the same color all the way in. As you get closer to the ground, you get lighter. So, paper towel, like if we got these wet and got these lighter, then it would have more of a transition, because you definitely want them lighter. You need more paper towels. Oh, you got them. Okay. And then you might feel that transition. But when it's all the same, it's going to read kind of flat. And this again is wet on dry. So I'm just kind of wetting where I want to lighten it up. And then dabbing it off. Wetting where I want to lighten it up. Dabbing it off. But just by having it lighter, you see it gives you a little more atmosphere.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that better?
It's better you're still doing this. You have a pattern.
So,
See, you're following that same pattern.
Yeah.
That your brain is very strong.
okay.
It's like, I want pattern. I want pattern. So it's so normal. So you want to break up. You don't want to. If this is 3, you want to break it up and have something come off of it and go a different direction.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Maybe there's only 2 humps in this one, but these are so much the same
Yeah.
that you would want to really just change some of them to where there's difference in it. And we can lift some of that up. And you can come behind it. Yeah, it could be storm clouds. You can even blur some of that so it's not so bright. And then you could have the lighter clouds down in here where this is the whitest part.
Mhm.
But this is something you're going to have to play with and look at cloud formations. The main thing you want to do when you look at clouds, and I would recommend you study them anytime you get a chance, just look at what shapes they are. And when they get closer to the horizon, they're going to get flatter. The bottoms of them, you'll see how the bottoms kind of level out. And you'll notice things like that. Some of them will be real dramatic, and some of them won't. But when you can leave the white because your paper is dry, that gives you a little more dynamic read to the cloud than everything a blur. And now we came back with, see, I don't even mind the blur part, where it was really a dirty color earlier, where the tree is. I don't mind that now, because when it dries, I can see the purple and I can see the orange through there. So that doesn't bother me. But what we need to do, okay, so finish your attempt at clouds. It takes
practice to dry.
It takes
The dye
practice.
is harder.
It is harder.
Uh-huh.
But it's different. So I wanted you to see that. Now you can do the same thing. I'll just do the same thing with wet, but you're going to have just a different look. I'll just do one really quick. Okay, so let me wet, get some flowy paint. Okay, so if I want the same look, but I want wet on wet, I wet my paper, turn it sideways because I still want to try to control that edge.
Won't it bleed?
It will. It will. So, but it might.
Harder to keep the white.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep the white when it's dry. To me, it is.
So even when it's wet, you can still paint in variation, various places, but you have to isolate. Try not to paint where you want white. You don't have the hard edges, which is okay. See, my paint's already drying. My paper's already drying because it's not bleeding down here. But I can lift off a little bit better because it's wet on wet. So if I get down here and I don't like, it's too hard of an edge, then I can just lift it up a little bit. And so it might be a little more forgiving if you're painting on wet paper. But you just have to know it's going to bleed. But either way, you want to try both. You want to be able to control it. But it's really easier if you have clouds to look at. And I didn't pull. Let's see if I have. All of these are sunset kind of clouds, so we'll come back to that later. I want to do some land in the distance. Hi, Sheldon. Hey, baby. How are you? You doing okay? You're so sweet. Yeah, I'm so sweet.
I think I'm a messy painter because I need
A
12
gazillion paper
papers.
towels. I'm the same
Oh,
way.
here, I'll tell you what. Let's forget about the land right now because we'll do enough of that when we do buildings. This is a good one to do. That one. The cloud is very simple. The sky, it's just streaks. The water starts dark, comes in, has a little green in it, and then you save the white where the waves are. Okay, so we're going to do a small version. If you want to put a girl in it, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay too. Do you want to try a girl? Are y'all up
I
for that?
don't. Not this late at night.
intimidating.
I need to start that earlier.
Okay, but let me just, it's not as bad as you think. Okay, y'all just watch.
I don't know if my brain can work like that.
Okay, I'm going to turn it sideways. Oops. It's going to be easier than you think. Okay, because I want
Do you have a pipe?
like a fourth water up here. This is going to be see, I'm turning, oh, sorry. Turn it this way. All right, so this is going to be a small version, no girl. Okay? So I'm going to take some blue. It's the purple, more purpley blue. And I'm going to try to do kind of a very light line. This is the skyline. And then I'm going to just add a wash of water. Where's my paper towel? Okay, I'm just getting it wet. So it's not all white. And I'm going to add a little more blue right here. That's my sky.
Which one are you calling purpley blue?
It's the second blue over.
On the
It's
third
the
row?
probably ultramarine. It's the third one, second over.
So this is the sky?
This is just the sky, right? This is sky.
It's dry or wet?
It was wet. It was dry, and then I added wet when I wanted to blur that out. I didn't have enough water. So it's really pretty pale. And not excessively wet. I mean, right now my paper's not even shiny. I just added enough wet to smear it. I'm going to knock my paints off. I can put them over here.
Five-year win
Okay. So it's like 1/4 up. If you added the other color of blue too, that's okay too. You know, you can have more than one blue in your sky. But you want this horizon line straight.
Oh, gosh.
It's practice. And if you wanted that you could have drawn that line first if you wanted to, but I didn't. Okay, now I'm going to turn it this way because now I'm working this direction. The point of my brush is going to be at the horizon line and I'm coming down this way. Alright, so y'all just hold your brushes for a second and don't paint. Unless you're still painting sky. Is anybody still painting sky?
I am.
Okay, go ahead, finish your sky. Okay. When I look at this, see I'm turning it this way so you can see the same direction that I'm painting. It's darker, that kind of a blue-greeny color, and I'm not going to paint everything solid, and so remember that first day when we put in a line of paint and then we added water as we blurred it. That's again controlling that brush. So I'm just going to start straight out of my palette. Where's my mixing tray? Here it is. It disappeared. Sorry. Okay, so that's that bluey green, third one down, third one over. So I'm just going to draw a line right along here and I compare to what's there. I want it a little darker. So I go back and get a little bit more paint. And then I'm just going to go back and forth, dragging my brush a little toward the shore. See how I'm just moving back and forth. I'm going to go pick up another color, add another blue, back and forth, and then I'm getting close to where the water might have a little turquoisey in it. So, ooh, that was way too much. So I got to wet that down, blur that out. And I'm getting close to the shoreline where I'm going to have some white foam. So as I get to the shoreline, I'm going to just remember how we did some ripples for the clouds and or the foliage of the trees. I might just turn it around this way because it's easier for me to do. That's where my foam is going to be. And then I turn around, and then I'm leaving space for the foam. And I'm doing water on the shore. And it is very, very thin. So you see where you see where the foam is now? That's the foam. And this is the wet sand.
Is it still the same color?
Just more water.
The sand's still that light blue, greenish blue.
Right, now I'll come back and I'll add shadows to it later. But right now it's the same color as the water.